we are taking the part 3 now. I start by paying homage to my friend Samir Patil. Thank you, Samir. You have been a great person, and I remember you today. That's all I can say. God bless you. Right, whatever little I can do for your family, Samir, I'll be there with you. Here we go. Right, so here is a disclaimer clause. Thank you very much, my knowledge partners. Today, Abhay Nair has really contributed a lot. Of course, my wife is always an inspiration. But Abhay has done a great job today. He kept collating data, kept talking to me. Wonderful colleague. Again, this is a period of challenging times. I met him the last 60, 90 days. And, God forbid, I believe it's my younger brother. The way he does things for me is amazing. Yes, Hunger Collective, we rock. Thanks to all of you all, we rock. Rajshri Sai ma'am, Ashlesha, definitely on track. We are now coming with a website known as Menon Mantras. Again, Shanti ma'am is there. They're pushing me actually. She's smiling, I'm sure. Shanti ma'am and Miss Dipti are pushing me. They are ready with the website. I have not been able to give content. So possibly tomorrow I'll sit back and give all the content from my side. So again, small initiative, right? So that people can read articles, understand free, pro bono basis, right? Get a bit more awareness of, these are all my dreams. Finally, now I'm coming down to doing it, right? Thank you, all of you all, right? I can't say, please donate because I know all of you have done it. So I can only say thank you. Okay. In case somebody remains, please try and do it. People are still dying of hunger. These are all the kids. What do I say? All right. All there. Saurabh is there. Gani is there. Sridevi is there. Right. Akshay. Yes. Ketan sir. Battling now, doing well. Manas, right. All of you all, right. Doing extremely well. I just spoke to Simarpreet on Saturday. When was I coming back from Damodar? Saturday. So Saturday evening, he actually put a WhatsApp when I was in a meeting. I called him late in the night. His consulting has picked up. Simarpreet's consulting has picked up with Sumit Kabra and Sandesh Mistry. Their consulting is picking up very, very well. Anjay ji, as always, right, I can't keep naming everybody, but Anjay ji is an inspiration for me. Going to Pune on Wednesday to meet this gentleman, right, Prasad, right, so he needs some help. He's already doing business with in Turkey, Malawi, and certain areas. So I'm going with a gentleman. You all know him, Mr. Shekhar Joshi, who has done work with Shapurji Palunji. So Shekhar Joshi sir has already this experience of working in this field. So I'm going along with him, right? And every time you go with these people, it's a learning for me also. Okay. What do I say? George sir, next week I'm in Cochin, right? I would love to meet them again after a long time, right? There he is. My kid is already there. Very quietly, he's sitting there, but Gani tells me he's a very big shot, very, very big shot. The Satwa group, thank you. This kid is from Mathura. And of course, right, what do I say about them? They are all the kids, they teach you humility. All my students teach me humility is all I can say. We are rocking, we are going strong. We still need to cover a lot, right? We still need to cover a lot. We'll keep going. Right? This is for all of you all. So we start the class. So this is for all of you, right on time. We start the class, right? So what does it say? Right? It says that only money is not good. Education alone is limited view. Education and money puts a balance to life. So you cannot say that money is not important. Money definitely is important. But as Dr. Shrikant would tell us, right, it is how do you manage wealth? How do you digest wealth is important. Yes, this was where we said part 1, India faltered. India faltered in expenditure by individual consumers. So we now do a complete recap. Investment by private businesses. People are scared. People are scared to invest because the animal spirits is not unleashed. The animal spirits is not unleashed. So people have got scared. What would happen tomorrow? Will the government support us? What is going to happen to COVID? This is where the expenditure by investment by private businesses have collapsed. And government has picked up, but government can hardly move the needle today. So government has to get the private sector to move. Private sector in turn will push individual consumers. Net demand from exports being positive. I personally keep saying this. It's not a good sign for a growing country, which still depends on outside countries for its energy needs. In US saying net demand from exports is good, is positive, is a good sign because they have discovered shale gas. we have not discovered an alternative to oil. Whatever you say about solar and others, we have still not discovered an alternative to oil. So this is not a good sign. This being positive basically means our imports have dropped. It shows that there is a slowdown in the economy. This was the massive loss which each one of us have suffered. MSMEs have borne the brunt, but yes, I'm a big optimist that things will improve, not because of the government, is despite the government, because that's the way Indians have grown. There's a joke about IT sector, that IT sector in India grew in the night because the government was sleeping in the night. So there's a joke about IT sector, and suddenly the government woke up and said, "Oh my God, IT sector has become so big." It's a statement which is coming from Mr. Narayan Murthy, right, who said that they were actually stifling growth in India, where he had to wait for about 9 months to get a telephone connection. But he persevered. And then suddenly they found that there were some norms, state government norms, right, which helped them. So part two, I focused on 1991 reforms, right? The video will be soon up, right? So 1991 reforms was fiscal, monetary, industrial policy reforms. We talked about this, then the rupee devaluation. I'm open for any queries, trade policy reforms, and promoting foreign investment. That is what I call as LPG, liberalization, privatization, globalization. So today we start with part three. So we have understood that we Indians work under pressure, and it is a pressure which pushes India to reform, because there are a lot of lobbying agents at every point of time, and to break that cartel, it requires a lot of political will. It requires a lot of political will. So what has been the reforms that this government has done? Let's put a report card now to discuss about what has been the reforms that this government has done. So one, what he has done is, what this government has done was carry forward the legacy of the earlier government. So I personally believe that there are a lot of things that the earlier government initiated, which this government finished. So credit goes to both the governments. So GST was visualized by the earlier government. Let's face it, UPA 2. Similarly, you have Manrega, which was again an UPA legacy, which was opposed, but now you can very clearly see that this government is carrying it. The third thing which I thought was JAM, Jandan accounts, linking direct benefit transfer. Aadhaar, again, this government has carried out, and mobile. So JAM, J-A-M, Jandan accounts, right, for that farmer or poor. So government will directly transfer subsidy, which was visualized earlier and implemented. Both gets credit. So one for visualizing, one for implementing. Aadhaar was started in the earlier government, Nandan Nilekani, and he has come out with a super article that how you can use the Aadhaar experience to come out with reforms. You could read that article, and thanks to this class, I've been reading. With my limited time, I've been reading, but with God's grace, when you sit with people and talk to them also, you get a lot of ideas. And Nandan Nilekani says the Aadhaar program can be a good base for reforms. So please read that article. And mobile. The mobile is linking everything to mobile now, right? And that's the way to go, JAM. So GST has been implemented in India, but unfortunately, let's give credit. But unfortunately, there are too many slabs. And one thing that the central government has done, which is according to me, which it needs to revisit, is there was a clause by which they said they will compensate the states for loss of income. There was a clause where the center said, many states, so please understand, GST as a rule will definitely have a bias against some states. So it favors the consumption states. That is the way the reform is. So obviously you had some states coming in and say, you can't have GST in toto. So they said, okay, petrol, diesel, we will not come in with GST because then that will kill everybody. So till we don't have implemented GST there. Second, they said, right, so please understand, land is still a state subject. And that's where, the government is not needling with it. And then there was a clause, dear colleagues, where the center agreed to compensate the states for loss of revenue. Now, what is the sad part of GST implementation? Full credit to this government for implementing GST, is that now the center is pulling back from that commitment. So what the center is saying is this loss of income we cannot compensate because there has been a fall, right? Last quarter, 25% fall, is because this is an act of God. This is an act of God. Now, is it legally right? Absolutely right. You can always go back on an agreement by saying something which is an act of God. But is it right in spirit? I don't think so, because there are two options that the center is telling the state. One is they're saying, you go and borrow yourself. Now, you see, when states borrow, then the entire balance sheets of the state will start getting hit because their debt to equity ratio will get stifled. Second thing is, you cannot abdicate your responsibility when you set something for GST. So the entire loss of income has been broken into two parts. One part, the center says we will 97,000 crores, we will compensate you. The other bigger part, I'm sorry, this is an act of God. It's because of this pandemic. You go and borrow, and that can lead to problems because it kills the federal spirit. So GST, let's give some marks to the government, but unfortunately not full marks because it is half baked. Okay, it's half baked. So there is a lot of reforms that we expect in GST to come in. Second has been a brilliant move, and thank you Abhay for this wonderful slides. God bless you. Is the insolvency and bankruptcy code. So earlier, so what these are the reforms which have been implemented before the pandemic. Okay, so I'm presenting to you the report card of this government. So earlier we had something which is called as a willful defaulter. So in 91, we had a lot of retail guys defaulting on their credit card loans. And I was talking to one such colleague of mine, and he's from a very premier institute, even better than the Bajaj and the SPJs, right? And by the way, in that institute there is a paper on ethics also, right? That's the beauty of this. So this guy would tell me that, I have this card of Citibank and I'm going to default. So you're going to default, and what will happen? What will you do? That's nothing. I'll pick up a card from SBI. Then I may default from SBI also. I'll go to an ICICI. And I just kept looking at him. I said, nobody will find out. He said, no, nobody will find out. So that was completely a practice in 90s where you didn't even know who is defaulting where. That was abolished by, this practice was abolished where you had a central database known as CIBIL. So today at least people are scared. Retail guys are scared, default hoga na CIBIL mein aa jayega. CIBIL mein aa jayega, kidhar se loan liya hai. CIBIL is a Credit Information Bureau India Limited, is a fallout from FICO. The United States has a database. Similarly, when for corporate customers, we had a time, where you had a willful defaulter. What is the problem, right? If you default on a loan, and what will these guys do? They will file a case, and that case will drag on and on and on and on and on. This is the confidence with which some people took loans and then they just left the country. And if you think I'm referring to a beleaguered liquor baron, the answer is no. He's not among the top 20 willful defaulters of India. So IBC, which came in, was to change this attitude of willful defaulters. And I would give full compliments to this government. And actually, this reform was initiated by Dr. Raghuraman Rajan, who pushed it down and said, I want an IBC code. And of course, the government also did a great job, Arun Jaitley, the late Mr. Arun Jaitley, and then they laid out the code. Please remember my earlier line. Many things are implementation of what the earlier government visualized. So let's grant it to them also. So IBC today has brought about, that is where you have an NCLT today, right? And you have so if you have a case, you can file in NCLT. They will segregate into operational creditors and financial creditors and so on and so forth. Now, please understand one more thing that happened in this is if you want to go from NCLT and appeal, you can go to NCLAT. That's it. That's about it. So this was a very good code, which I believe has improved the banking system to a certain level, right? Has it completely cleansed out the system? No, right? So it's a good reform. It requires political will, but there's still lots more to be done, and we'll discuss that. One more good thing that was implemented. Incidentally, class, please note, when I was reading, I realized that some states have still not adopted RERA. Some states have still not adopted RERA. Okay, and I was shocked when I saw that. So center has passed the RERA. States, most of them have adopted it. Others have not adopted it. It is good for real estate buyers because earlier there was a lot of, I'm not talking of the big builders like Oberoi or Godrej. They are they are much better. But a smaller developer would take money for a project, route it to some other project, and and the projects would get stuff, and and they were not really bothered. So RERA, Real Estate Regulatory Act, tried to cleanse up the system. Yes, has it done a good job? I'll give it 8 out of 10. I'll give it 8 out of 10, right? Because it is definitely cleaning up the real estate. Why not 10 out of 10? Because I still believe black money is there in real estate. Is the government aware of it? I do not know. But obviously, everything goes and links to the political funding reforms, which is yet to happen in India. Now, what are the COVID reforms? So this was before GST, IBC, RERA. I'm not mentioning demonetization. I can only say one thing in demonetization. I think we burnt the house to kill a rat, and the rat anyway escaped. The rat anyway escaped. For those who doubt my statement, please look at the amount of cash in the economy today. It's come back to pre-demonetization level, and I speak with data, right? It is pre-demonetization level. So that means we've really not killed it. Incidentally, we have made it even better with the 2000 rupee note, is what research shows. So what were the COVID reforms that happened? The COVID reforms that happened, so right when COVID struck, the government immediately came in and said, we are coming out with a reform of 20% of GDP, or what was it? 10% of GDP. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. But anyway, that number is bullshit. 10 or 20, it really doesn't matter, because it was anyway a marketing pitch that we came. Because I see a lot of fine prints. So if you look at that speech, it was announced like this: I am going to come out with a stimulus package of 10% of GDP, and then including RBI, including liquidity measures, including this, including that, etc. So it was very clear in the announcement that the respected Prime Minister already include RBI's measures in that. Now, is it good or bad? I leave it to you all. It was a 3 lakh emergency working capital for businesses, including MSMEs, 20,000 crores subordinate debt for stressed MSMEs. So this was announced as, first time in the world that you are going to give money to a stressed MSME, to an NPA. I think there has been minimal disbursement under 20,000 crores. Why? Because the bankers have not given this loan. And why bankers have not given this loan? Because we are going to question them on NPAs. So it was an announcement. First of all, the number 20,000 crores is peanuts for the size of the economy that we have. But even that 20,000 crores, we did not give it to an NPA, because let's say a Gunny gives that loan today. After 6 months, you will have a audit, and the auditor guy will come and say, boss, how did you give this loan? What made you give this loan? And he's answerable. So what does the banker do? He sits quiet. So in India, fortunately or unfortunately, you don't get penalized for not taking decisions. You get penalized for taking decisions. So if you look at the Kamath committee report, which has come in, and I was reading that, for restructuring proposal, very clearly they have laid out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guidelines. And Kamath committee is playing it extremely, extremely safe. It's playing it extremely, here it is. Right, wonderful article. If you get time, please read about it. Miss Maithili has written it. RBI loan restructuring plan. Okay, Economic Times. Banking without NPAs. Right, and no banker would like to give loans if you put it in a straitjacket. So you see, banking involves a lot of due diligence also. Banking also involves looking at the promoter and seeing whether they are genuine or no. Third thing which has happened is 50,000 crore equity infusion through MSME fund of funds. I have not had data. I've been looking it up. Yes, I had a colleague who came and said, I know the person who is heading out of it. If you want, I can get you listed through the scheme. And then we went and checked it out, and we found that the terms of the scheme was so obnoxious that nobody would like to have government funding. So government was ready to fund the promoters at such clauses that, it was a completely one-sided thing. So for all practical purpose, 20,000 is ruled out, 50,000 is ruled out. 3 lakh happened. It is happening around 1,90,000 has been disbursed. This was a very good move from the government. No global tenders for government up to 200 crores. So this was tried to keep China away. But my guess is China will still enter, because they'll do joint venture. So you'll have you'll have an Indian which is bidding here, but there'll be a joint venture from the Chinese partner, right? But in a way, it is good that the government is encouraging Indian entrepreneurs under the Atmanirbhar program. This was again one very good move, 30,000 crores that was given to NBFCs. 45,000 crore was again given to microfinance institutions. And the weakest link in the electricity chain is distribution. So power generation is okay. Distribution is where there is a problem. That is why we have called something called as DISCOMs. And DISCOMs are in a very, very bad shape because of subsidies, leakages, people stealing electricity. So 90,000 crore liquidity was infused into them also. And please note, when you say injected, this is taxpayers' money. Let's get it right. Somebody is paying for somebody else's free lunches. So this is taxpayers' money, but a good reform. Otherwise, electricity distribution would have suffered. Contractors were given extension. Real estate projects were given extension. There was a lot of tax relief to business people, and tax deduction at source was reduced by 25%. Basically, it was to improve liquidity. And yes, the government was kind enough to include the due date for various tax compliances. So colleagues, what was the government aiming at? So now I will take a pause. There is an economist by the name of Say. So when I was reading this, Say says something, economist says something, says that focus on the supply side of the equation and the demand would automatically happen. Very interesting. So when you read about his theory, it says there is supply and demand. And economists say, SAY says that focus on the supply side of the equation, demand would automatically happen. Colleagues, the government focused on the supply side, not on the demand side. So all this is supply side. Give working capital loan, supply. Give 20,000 crore to stressed MSMEs, supply. Unfortunately, Say's law will not apply during stress times. Say, economist Say himself has said that my law will apply in normal times, not during crisis. So the government tried attacking the supply side, which has miserably failed. Okay, now today we know that from the first quarter results that this has miserably failed. That means now they will have to focus on the demand side of the equation. That is where this discussion picks up, which is where the government has realized that abhi kuch karna padega. So first reform was agriculture. So that is a great move, right? APMC has been, the monopoly has been abolished. I think it's great, right? I hope all of you all will make use of this because agriculture is tax-free income. I want all of you all to look at this because this session is also about to tell all business people about the sunrise sector. Saurabh is already there. Abhishek is already there. All the others, I don't know if Karamveer is already there. He has agriculture income, but legally you can avoid paying taxes legally if you are in agriculture. So please have a look at that. The government is also making agriculture as a sunrise industry. There's some sad news though. Today, I was reading Hindustan Times and it seems the farmer unions have got together and they are protesting against certain things. I think again, is this a part of opposition, which is because of politics? I have no comments. But today's news was slightly disturbing because I hope the government does not pull itself back. This is a great move. Essential Commodities Act 1955 has been abolished. Contract farming is becoming a reality. We need the small farmers to be helped. We need more and more corporates to come in and help the, of course, monopolies should never be allowed in any sector. That goes without saying. So contract farming is happening. ITC has been doing it pretty well, right? Can we have other corporates coming in? Because we need good storage facilities. We need good agriculture produce, modern technologies. And yes, because the land holding is small, the small farmer, the average land holding is small, the small farmer is not able to invest. So if he can be given the support from a corporate, things will be very, very good. Where agriculture is going to be the main point of the economy, at least that's very clear now. So that's our first request to all of you, look at agriculture if you're not already doing so. Corporate contract farming is picking up, okay? That is where possibly you can make some good wealth for yourself. Insurance sector. So again, this is for the bigger players, but yes, worth talking about. Defense has been opened up, insurance has been opened up. Defense is controversial. I don't want to get into a discussion here, but the fact of the matter is defense has been opened up through automatic route, can be viewed with some consternation because, defense is not supposed to be opened up, but the government has done it. Right? Maybe it is good or bad. It depends on the implementation of the government. Insurance sector, I think it's extremely good because from 26 to 49, as per what my information goes and my limited knowledge goes, there is no special rights that come in. So 26, whatever rights you have, you will have it at 49 also. Yes, moment you cross 50 and become 50.1, then the ownership changes. So this 26 to 49, I think is a great move. 74 to 100, I think is slightly controversial. So I'll reserve my comments on defense. But I'm very happy that commercial mining has been allowed in the private sector. So that can open up some very good opportunities for my students and my business colleagues, because all ancillary units are now being opened up. So maybe use of technology there. And I'm not saying all of you all should be asset heavy models. It could be an asset light model. Even space sector has been opened up for private enterprise. Clearly shows that India is following the United States. Yes, one very good thing. I think the MSME definition has been widened to include larger section of enterprises, which is very, very clear. Earlier, one question that students used to ask me is that, sir, how can we get into the MSME sector? And we practically would say you can't. But today, with the definition being enlarged, it is going to pull in a lot of larger enterprises. And please note, it is good in one sense because this was a long pending demand from the industry. Make in India is again getting a big boost. So this is again, I'm not a spokesman for any party, but I think it's a good move from the government. Startup funding has now been classified as priority sector by Reserve Bank of India, which is again essentially good. Now that is where you need to be very careful. Will some crony, some idiot come and give a project plan and take money out of a startup like Mudra scheme? See, I think the proof of the pudding lies in the implementation. But I'm happy because many of you are thinking of startups. If a project is good and the banker is a genuine guy, not everybody is bad, is a genuine guy, then that being included in the priority sector, there'll be targets for the banker to push. So that is a very, very good move. As I said, the stimulus was not enough. So these will now add up. Right? These will now add up, but then wait. Tax reforms that Gunny wonderfully said. Gunny's comment was very, very apt. So he had included all that which was announced in the budget, and he's absolutely right, dear Gunny. So the reduction of tax from 34 to 25%, right, made it very good. But these two reforms have come in, and I'm very happy with these two reforms: faceless assessment and faceless appeal. Because I personally believe that all of us are okay with paying taxes. All of us are very, very okay with paying taxes. But it is what we fear is the tax harassment, right? And in a way, the authorities themselves saying you don't need to pay taxes, you can get a way out of it. So I think this is a great move. Faceless assessment, wherever credit is due, I will give it to the government. Faceless assessment and faceless appeal, if it is implemented in the true sense, and especially giving the certificates. So I had Mr. Deepak Nathwani sir. So Deepak Nathwani sir very nicely sent me a gold certificate that the income tax had given him. So it gives you a sense of pride. You are doing something for the government. See, it all boils down to Maslow's theory. Where you are acknowledged, okay, you are a nation builder, rather than look upon somebody as you are somebody who's evading taxes. So that's a very good move by the government. Where will the government act according to me? So here is it. This slide I've been saying for a long time. I think what the government possibly would do is subsidy efficiency will go up. So subsidy will not be reduced, but the leakages will go off. State-owned enterprises privatization, right? So Air India, we all know, will finally, we all know it will go into the Tata lab now very soon. LIC is on the way. Now you can always oppose this, but let me put my, and of course there is freedom of speech, you can oppose it, but I personally believe that LIC privatization is not privatization. LIC is not becoming private. You're only listing LIC, and it is good for us because then LIC will have to open up its books of accounts, and that's good for us. Well, I personally believe that once you open up the books of accounts, you will be scared to take decisions. And we are talking about monolith state institutions which have never been opening up their accounts. So once you are in the public domain and the chairman has to answer questions. But yes, I believe Air India should be privatized. So all loss-making state-owned enterprises, either you turn it around or you privatize it. And I think, right, yes, there are some sectors where Air India should remain, right, in a smaller entity. But the sectors where you have private airlines, I don't see any reason why Air India should remain as a state-owned entity. Tax buoyancy, I think the government will cut GST. I expect around about Diwali time, GST will be cut. And that is just to boost the tax efficiency because, round about the festive season time, the government will have to come in and say, let's try this. And it has been tried earlier by Mr. Piyush Goyal. So I'm cutting the rates. And suddenly, you'll be in that festive mood and you'll say, why don't I buy that one mobile, which I've been thinking for some time, or a fridge that I've been thinking for some time. Power sector reforms, I think very, very extremely important. I think it will add to around, this is wonderful figures which have come from McKinsey. This will add to around 0.3% of India's GDP. When you say power sector reforms, electricity is given free of cost to the agriculture sector, but nothing free always. The taxpayer pays for it. So there will be a subsidy that will be attached. It will go directly to farmers' account, which is very, very good. Industrial electricity tariffs are higher today because it is being subsidized. They are supposed to subsidize the residential sector. And that's exactly where I think once the subsidy is well directed, electricity costs will come down, right? And I think that's the very good thing for India, because electricity and interest are the killers for any industry, especially in India. Savings rate, again, controversial, but the government is moving on that. PPF and others will be linked to lower market rates. Interest rates will be lowered. You know what will happen because of that? Today, banks are not able to reduce their interest rates on fixed deposits. Why they are not able to reduce their rates on fixed deposits? They are saying that, then people will go away to small saving schemes, which is anyway guaranteed by the government of India. So if you start reducing that, I can reduce my cost of deposits here. And moment the cost of deposits reduce, lending rate will reduce. So one reason why banks are not, two reasons. One, they are not able to reduce their rates is because of NPAs, all sort of nonsensical lending decisions, right? Second is they see saying that, small saving schemes, if you don't reduce the rate, everybody will go there. So, they'll go to a post office or a PPF or something else. Reduce the rates there, we can reduce it here. I would do accept it with a pinch of salt. It's not completely true, but there is an element of truth there. So once small savings rates start coming down, it is good. The lending rate will come down. But for that, inflation has to be under control. Just reducing savings rate without controlling inflation will be absolute turmoil, because inflation hurts the common man the most. So this is the total average savings. Wonderful slide by McKinsey. And they are saying that, the government will spend more. So out of this 3.6, 2% government will spend in terms of short-term borrowings and directed lending. And the government should invest the remaining 1.6 on public infrastructure, especially health, right? So India still does not have a good public and physical infrastructure. So this money that saves here, it can go in here. And I don't think any one of us will have any objection when the government decides to shut down an Air India and say, we will have a better hospital. But having said that, I think rather than build a better hospital, I again repeat, right, the government can give a subsidy and let us decide which hospital to go. That will work much better, right? Let us decide which school our kid will go, maybe to a private school. That will be much better. So there is a change of mindset that needs to come in. But these are the steps that the government can take. Yes, I believe this is very important. The government will have to divest its assets. One of the largest real estate landlord in India is Government of India, Railways. So they'll have to unlock that. Steps have been taken, right? Steps have been taken. And if this government can't do it, who can do it? Because this government has the majority. Can the government bite this bullet? And I see this coming in. Okay. So one, can the government offer surplus land to public sector? Second, can the government introduce greater flexibility in labor market? So labor is a state subject. Government can only give the framework, central government, state government has to implement. Here I would like to say Madhya Pradesh has done a very smart reform without really making very hue and cry. They have temporarily suspended the labor laws, but please note it is not permanent suspension. It is for a limited period of time, but at least the first move has gone. Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, UP, and have done that. And surprise of surprise, even Rajasthan is doing that. So you cannot attribute it to a particular party. Some states have become progressive, at least ones who want to attract investment. The government can possibly think of reducing its role in public sector banks, right? And maybe if you could have better banks, like this is very controversial, like HDFC thing or Kotak, it will be better. But I'm sure for every HDFC and Kotak, I will be told that there is an Yes Bank also. So here RBI would have to do a very important role. It is not about public or private sector. RBI would have to do a good role. As I said, eliminate the cross subsidies. So maybe residential and agriculture, there has to be a tariff. Government can pay for it, but industrial tariffs can come down, which is very, very important. There are some tariff inversions that is happening. So the raw material has got a higher duty than the finished product. So that is killing Indian manufacturers. So that tariff inversion, it can be corrected. And especially in plastics, it is true that the government can, I don't know if there is a lobby which has got it done, but if the government can do that, so you can't have a higher tariff on raw material and a lower tariff customs duty on the finished product. So that means the Indian manufacturer will be wiped off. Okay. So that is where possibly the government will have to relook the entire thing. Increase floor space index. So one big problem in India is we don't have affordable housing. So maybe increase, grow, let them grow vertically. That can lead to problems. You can't have indefinite growth. But Gujarat has done that, is what I've been reading, and so have increased the FSI. So that may bring down the real estate prices, which is important. Right? Because housing, if it picks up, it is good for the country. Because housing will immediately stimulate demand in steel and cement, right? And of course, construction is the second largest employer after agriculture. So part one is this. Part two, government can increase the role of private sector in agriculture marketing. That's already done, right? Loosen its fiscal deficit. This is going to be very, very dangerous, right? But then if the government can loosen the fiscal deficit, tell the rating agencies this is for a specific period. We are doing it to avoid the junk rating, and then show the great utility of funds. I think the rating agencies also will be convinced, especially if the government is borrowing to build infrastructure, right? I think it will go in the government. If the government is borrowing to fund operational expenditure, it will go against the government. But capital expenditure, I think everybody will say it's very good. State governments currently cannot borrow more than 20% of their GDP. If that can be released, at the state government start investing, right, in infrastructure, it is good. Income support to poor households, the government has been looking at only rural poor. I think the government has to look at urban poor. I don't need to convince all of you all that urban poverty is as bad, if not worse, than rural poverty. So government may have to look at this. So Narega programs and all that is to the rural, nothing wrong. But can the government also look at urban poor? Demand side intervention has to come in. Supply side has failed, right? Money in the hands of consumers. I've been talking to some people and they are saying that they expect the registrations of real estate to go up in Maharashtra at least because of a stamp duty cut till December, right? So they are saying that there's a pent up demand. And I've been talking to some global real estate brokers. They are saying that there is some demand that is picking up. Improve spending on public infrastructure. Part three, very interesting. My last 5 minutes with you all, and I'd like to take some questions or your notings, more importantly. All right, introduce an urban variant of Manrega. Now, please understand, this is where it gets very interesting, and I'm going on record saying it. India does not have a developed bond market. So when I look at United States and Europe, why, right, they are able to fund their infrastructure because as my colleague Gani would tell you, or anybody who has some idea about how US markets work, there's a very vibrant bond market there where people buy and sell debt instruments. India, Nikita ma'am, is more of equity markets. So can we implement the NH Patil committee norms and have a vibrant bond market? So today, if I want to build a bridge, I go to a bank. The corporate should not be able to go to the bank. The corporate should be able to issue a debenture. The corporate should be able to issue a bond. And that is where the bond markets have to come in. And I think this government will have to move on this. There are certain problems. One is stamp duty, small problems which the government can really iron out. So once you have a robust bond market, now if you ask me why the government is not doing it, I have no answers for this, because this long pending reform. Then the stress on the banking sector will stop. So today the entire infrastructure financing is happening through banks. That should stop. It should go to the bond market. Financial sector should be reformed. So today your KYC norms, know your customer and anti-money laundering norms are so stringent that a common man cannot go into the banking sector, which is why you have shadow banks and para banking like Sahara and others doing it. And many Ponzi schemes also doing very, very well. So can the government reform the financial sector? I'm not saying dilute the norms, but make it easier for the common man to access banking. This I've already mentioned. So these two are very important financial reforms, which I believe will come in very, very soon. So I want all of you to be very prepared that, you have to look at beyond banks for beyond banks and public deposits for your financing. So you have to start thinking on those lines. What is a bond market? Do your homework. It's very simple. We can also run some sessions on that. It's very, very simple. What's a bond market? What is yield? What is yield to maturity? And so on and so forth. Please do your homework there. I believe a big reform is coming up. Yes, most importantly, I've said simplify the laws and look at the laws. How many laws are we talking about? 1,500 laws, which necessitate 69,000 compliances. And most of this is at the state level. Most of this is happening at the state level. 6,600 filings. How would you do that? That's why if somebody wants to expand in India, they say, no, we are going out. Flipkart, for all that we know, went to Singapore and registered itself. So when Flipkart was taken over by Walmart, India did not get that money. That's a shocking part. Because Flipkart by then had already gone from India and gone and registered themselves in Singapore. The reason is here. And I think we have only been looking at the central reforms. I want to end my presentation to you all that, it is also about the state level. The center can do it to a certain extent. Beyond that, it has to come from the state. And I want to give you one very interesting finding here. So ease of doing business in India, we had the rankings that is coming out. Andhra Pradesh has done a lot very quietly. It has done it. Of course, there's a lot of political things also happening there, which I think is not fair. Like this government is not honoring the contracts which were signed by the earlier government, which is completely wrong. Anybody who has invested, trusting the government comes in and says, no, we will not honor that is unheard of, but they are still number one. UP surprisingly has come up here. Right? And I think that is basically because the temporary suspension of norms and things that he said has pushed him here. Very interestingly, if you look at these numbers, right, I don't know, I'm just making a comment. Kerala is around 28 in terms of ease of doing business. Now, if you look at this with the social ranking, Kerala is at the top. I'm not trying to hint at something, but I'm trying to say something that, you need to have a very healthy mix and match of social indicators as well as business indicators. I was focusing on Kerala. From 28, it has moved to 1 in terms of literacy and, social indicators. It just struck me that let's look at 1 and 2, where they would rank. I have not looked at, it's right at the bottom. So Andhra is right at the bottom. Okay. So there is a correlation here. I do not know, right, how far it is right, but it looks like, if you are going to go ahead and protect organized labor, then maybe the reforms may not be able to carry out, because then, you are ignoring 85% of the unorganized segment, which is actually needs to be protected. Okay. State reforms, I think we have not been talking about. We have only been looking at the center, but I think states have equal responsibility as much as the center. Part 4 and my last slide for today, because that last dot is for you all to fill in. Quality of governance institutions have to improve. I don't want to talk about the legislature, executive and judiciary. Anything that disincentivizes growth, I think government will have to remove it. Cooperative banks and shadow banks will have to come under RBI's guideline. So that has been passed by the government, but suddenly you have somebody who is opposing it. So that's a very important move, I think, according to me. Cooperative banks are the weakest link in the banking chain, and it has to come under a better regulator. I'm not saying the best regulator. So RBI is, according to me, better than the rest of cooperative societies. And we need to have the government moving up to investing in education. So let me confess, where do I see the next boom for your industries? One is education, second is health, third is physical infrastructure. So I want to tell all of you all, I want to submit this presentation by saying that where do I see the next boom coming in? And the government does not have any choice. You as business people, you should look at agriculture. I know you can't look at space. You can just read about it. Maybe some of you are big, you can look at space also. But most of you all, one, agriculture, definitely. Second, education, that's going to be picking up. Third, health, that's going to be picking up. Fourth, physical infrastructure, right? But then be very, very careful. Don't get into long gestation projects. You may get hampered. don't get into shorter projects and be asset light models, right? What is asset light models? Basically, I'm trying to tell you all that don't get into heavy capital expenditure models, right? Maybe a startup in the education field, a startup in the health field, which is asset light, right? With this, I stop my presentation. I would like to take some questions from you all before I say thanks to all of you all. This is the three-part summary of what I wanted to talk to you all about, the financial analysis, and all I've done is take out the E part of it. So I did what is known as the economic analysis. It'd be a pleasure to take questions from you all. Gani is making a point that, I forgot to mention about exports. I humbly submit, absolutely right. Exports is the next boom thing, and I've been saying it for some time. So where there are opportunities in education, in the Q&A chat, my kid has asked this question. I see a lot of traction happening in online education, and I think that's the next big move. So you could take any segment, Arjun, but I'm not going to tell you which segment. It could be a K-12 segment, but that is very crowded now with Byju's really uh, well funded and attacking. Or you could take post 12 standard, a professional course, or you could just take corporates. You could take corporates. I think what has happened, Arjun, and all my class, because of the pandemic, people have now got more used to online and Zoom. So that resistance to change has really come down. Incidentally, right, today I believe board meetings are, by default are going to be conducted on Zoom. So I would personally say, Arjun, that if you could look at not the K-12 segment, beyond that, the professional courses or the corporate part of it, I think there's a big space. There is a big space because people like to get trained. People want to keep themselves updated. They know that if they don't, they will lose their jobs. So take specific courses, right? Udemy is doing extremely well, right? There are people who are doing that. But if you can take customized, right? So let's say you go, right, and take a customized sector, finance or marketing, and then offer courses by experts. And it should not be very long. It should be to the point, short, and then go and try and uh, go digital with it. I think that's a big area. And we call it asset light because you don't have to invest in a classroom or things like that. It is maybe I have a colleague, the Aurora brothers, who have converted their physical classroom into a studio and they use their mobile for shooting and they come out with very good videos. In fact, the last video was using Bollywood to explain principles of physics. Young boys, right? And that video has got maximum views, right? Yes, absolutely, Gani. So, Gani says, it has right. It has definitely moved beyond it has moved beyond online. It has leapfrogged by 3 years. Abhishek, that point is that interest subvention for MSMEs. Again, I had you in mind when I said that, but I don't think so. You'll have to go back and check. I don't think so. So today I just spoke to Aditya. In fact, he was kind to call me in the morning. I returned his call. There is a subvention and it is not limited to MSMEs and it is for everything. Just check that up, son. Just check that up for me, please. Because the government wants to promote exports. And yes, the government is favoring a lot of MSMEs. So we will possibly have a class in spin-offs and demerger. So I will like to see if somebody can deliver it for you all. Great. If not, I'll come down. It's an area of interest for me. I'll do it. But we will have a spin-off or a slum sale class, right? I'll try and get a speaker for you all. How do you convert a bigger company to smaller unit and what are the pros and cons? So that, maybe a division of you all may go into MSME and we'll get some benefits. I'll stop for now. Thank you very, very much. God bless. Stay safe, right? And I should thank all of you all again because you are the stress busters for me. I should confess that. You are really the stress busters, right? Because I do tend to go down sometimes, especially, right, when your near and dear ones are suffering. But you guys have kept me going in these challenging times. With that, I say thank you, Gani. Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, all of you. Right? We meet on Wednesday and we'll keep the show going. Thank you. Thank you, Advait. God bless.